Man, we are off and running again on a Friday, third stream of the day, which is a lot because I didn't stream at all yesterday or the day before. Well, actually, I did stream Wednesday. What am I saying? I don't want to start off the stream lying to the audience. But welcome to the Pig in a Pickle Krueger Show on a Friday. Larry Krueger with you, brought to you by Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out because it's a legit barbecue spot. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that you watch the Krueger Show. They'd love to hear it. And of course, we're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass, marinautoglass.com. If you shatter a windshield, heck, if you live in San Francisco, the chances that you're going to shatter a windshield or a side window pretty damn high these days, actually. 415-883-3030. It's not nearly as difficult to be in that fraternity, the windshield shattered fraternity, when you live in San Francisco. And of course, we are brought to you also by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code KRUEG, and they will match you, KRUEG. They will match you up to your first $100. And we're also brought to you by Sharp Corners, sports cards and collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue down in Pacific Grove along the Monterey Peninsula. Give Anthony Catania a call if you're looking for sports collectibles. 831-521-5264. Could we have more sponsors? Could we possibly have more sponsors? Actually, next week, we will have two more sponsors.
God damn. Then the show's over. You got the sponsor's name out, and now we're done.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks to everybody. That's a wrap and good stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. No, but thank you to all of our sponsors today on the show. Jake Hutchinson at Hutch Diesel on Twitter. Dieter Kurtenbach at Dieter. Very simple, easy to remember on X as well. If you're saying, man, this trio looks familiar. Yes, we had these guys on during Super Bowl week in Media Row. And why do I choose these guys? Because they're as informed and as credible as any duo in this market. And everybody who knows me knows I don't pull punches. So I wouldn't say that just to say it. And Dieter, I've known probably for a little bit longer. Yeah. Dieter, what year did you first come to KMBR?
2014, late 2014. I showed up and Jim Harbaugh immediately was separating from Jed York. So I'll take the blame on that one.
Yeah. So Dieter and I have been yelling at each other since 2014. Jake and I have only been recently yelling at each other.
That's
Jake,
right.
what year did you come to the Leader?
It was 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And now, of course, Jake works for Odyssey. He's joined me and Lo Neal on the pregame. Dieter, you catch on KMBR. I caught both these guys in Vegas, and we pulled them aside for a live stream. And with the Niner talk being pretty thick, with free agency getting rolling, I guess the non-tampering deal on Monday, then the legal tampering, and then the Wednesday the league year actually officially begins. So the Niner news is coming out, and it's starting to come out right now. It was announced this morning that Colton McKivitz has re-signed for 1 year, $7 million. We'll get to that. And then most recently, it just came out on X that the 49ers have been awarded 5 compensatory selections and in the upcoming draft, which I believe gives them 12 for the draft. I'd have to double check it, but I think it's 12. I think, guys, I want to start right there with the compensatory selections. I actually think that John Lynch, Parag Marathe, Kyle Shanahan, and the 49ers are actually doing something that is a little bit ahead of the rest of the league. I'm not saying they're Joey Light years like Joe Lacob and the Warriors, but I think this is the Niners are ahead of the league. And you say, well, why do you say that? I think they have mastered the free agent formula, which is the Niners have, let's say, 21 free agents. They're probably going to let like 17 or 18 walk. They're going to take, their 3, 4, or 5 compensatory selections, whatever it is. And some of them are due to coaches leaving, minority coaches leaving. So that also impacts the whole thing. But they're going to take whatever number of compensatory picks the league allots them, and they're going to let their free agents walk. And then the last 2 years, they've gone into the free agent market and signed a star. Last year, Hargrave. 2 years ago, it was Mooney. 3 years ago, they traded for D Ford, or maybe a few years ago, they traded for D Ford.
Yeah, that was a minute ago.
It wasn't.
He's still on the payroll, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, he is.
He's still here in
payroll for
spirit.
the next decade.
But I kind of think they're ahead of the game here. And I think it's because John Lynch gets it. John Lynch is a former player, and he understands that if you sign 8 free agents, you got guys looking over the room going, well, wait a second, why are you paying that guy to come in here when me and this guy are better and we're already here? And you asked us to work, extra hours last year to cover vacation, and we had to, work harder, and now you're bringing in these guys and you're paying them more. So John Lynch, I think, deep down understands the dynamics of the locker room. But you know what? You don't get those complaints when you sign Mooney, because Mooney's better than the competition. Right. And you probably don't get too many of those complaints signing Hargrave, even though he wasn't great, just because on paper he is better than the rest of the room. I think they're doing it the right way, and it also kind of makes it juicy, because now today we can speculate, if they continue what they've done, what monster free agent will they be on Monday or Tuesday of next week? Yeah. Give me your guys' thoughts on the way they're handling free agency. Am I wrong to give them credit for this? To me, this seems like a very well thought out winning approach to free agency. How do you guys see it?
Jake, let me start on this one, because I think that whether they're intentionally doing it or not, and we should probably give them credit, they're pretty intentional about what they do on a day-to-day basis. But whether they're intentional about it or not, building a team through free agency is no way to live. Like, you can't effectively do that.
Look at the Dolphins.
So spreading out that money, right? If you have a big chunk of money, and the Niners have had big chunks of money year in and year out because of the way that they handle their top-end players, their lack of a middle class, clearly pointing to the intention. Like, you don't want to bring in a bunch of guys making $6-7 million, because there's a reason they hit the free agent market. Most teams would re-sign good middle-class players if they had the chance. And going out and getting a top-end guy, it doesn't work out all the time. We saw that with Hargrave, at least after week 10, or at least after he had his injuries with the hamstrings. But it is a clear way of saying, okay, we're going to prioritize a weakness, and then everywhere else we're going to draft and we're going to develop. And by the way, that keeps the roster relatively cheap. You can get off on some of these big contracts that in a way that you probably couldn't if you had a bunch of little ones. It's anti-Patriots, but you know what? I think this is the way the modern league works, especially with the salary cap going up and up and up. I think if it is intentional, it is smart. And 11, 12 picks, I don't think they'll take all of them. I think they'll package some of them together, be able to move up and get a guy that they really want, even if it's just moving up a few picks. But having that kind of ammunition, especially knowing the cap hell that's coming for them in a couple of years when Brock Purdy needs to get paid, yeah, I think this is an effective roster building strategy. I don't think they're going to end up in the wilderness when it's all said and done, and they actually have to pay the piper for all these contracts they're handing out.
What do you think, Jake? You're all over this.
Yeah, you look at like the guys they got picks for. They got picks for Jimmy Ward, Aziz, Jimmy Garoppolo is the interesting one, right? He was supposed to be a 3rd rounder, and he came out as a 4th rounder. The fact that they even got that for Jimmy and just letting him walk when they wanted him gone for as long as they did is pretty incredible. But yeah, they don't pay for those guys. Like, they could have tried to keep Mike McGlinchey or Aziz or Jimmy Ward and all those guys, and
middle class guys.
When you have a guy who's not bona fide clear elite, I think they tend to let those guys walk. But what they also do is they find guys like Arden Key and Cleveland Farrell, like guys like that, and Charles Omenihu. Like those types of guys, they always find one guy where, there's analytics that tell them, there are signs to buy into these guys. And I think they're just really, really good at identifying those guys. And then instead of paying them $10 million a year to be like a decent edge rusher, if their price tag goes up, they let them walk.
On top of that, Jake, I mean, I think it's a great point. Like, they know their systems, and that's a big reason why Steve Wilkes is out and Nick Sorensen, who had never interviewed for a DC job, is in. They want to get back to what it is they know, because they can build personnel based on what it is they do and what is the foundation of their squad. So when they're going out and looking for a defensive end, sure, they can go and pay somebody $20 million opposite Nick Bosa and have a $50 million bookend at defensive end, or they can understand, hey, some guys are better built for this one gap wide 9 system than others. And they can go out and they can attack those guys and buy on the cheap because they know what it is they run and how it is they run it, and find guys who might not be as effective in the open market, but will be highly effective for them. They know their offense inside and out. They know what it is they're about. And by the way, I mean, I wish they would draft more like that. I wish that they would draft more for sort of the positions that they so clearly have defined in their minds, because they've had a lot of misses. At the same time, they've had a lot of hits, especially in the late rounds. We look at Purdy, we look at Kittle, we look at Warner. When they hit, it hits big. When they fail, it fails big. That's how it's a boom or bust operation, but they got a lot of boom players on this team. And I think it's a great point, Larry. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they added another one, because you look at that defense, which is where they've wanted to throw their money over the years, and there are holes. There are clear-cut holes. You add in the injuries to Greenlaw and Armstead. You look at safety and some question marks there besides Brown. You look at opposite corner. I mean, there are some spots that you can throw some money at. And maybe it would make a lot more sense if you're playing Madden, if you're doing some sort of fantasy football, to spread it all around. But that's just not how the 49ers operate. And clearly what they've been doing to this point hasn't won them a Super Bowl, but it's working pretty damn well. 98% of the teams in the league would trade places with them in a second.
Do you guys expect them to go big on a big name guy in free agency? I mean, Chris Jones is out there. Christian Wilkins is out there.
Yeah.
I'm watching NFL on ESPN right now. Azeez Al-Shaair is out there, and heck, he was at the Green Bay game, and makes me feel like maybe he wants to be here still. Do you anticipate them going after a big name? Like last year, they went after Hargrave, and they went after him early, like really early, like day one of free agency. I think they may have signed Hargrave. Do you guys expect to see the same on Monday or Tuesday? And who do you think it will be?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a clear position it makes sense. Like, honestly, the best person to bring back would probably be Chase Young, in terms of physicality and pass rushing and upside. Granted, his consistency was not there. So, it's something where I think that they're going to try and bring in like a linebacker. I think Azeez might make a lot of sense. Yeah. But again, his price tag might be a little high. So it's a weird market. I think Hargrave was a clear need. I don't know if there's someone that makes as much sense.
Jonah Jackson, the guard, is a real possibility. Yeah, he was a big loss for Detroit in the playoffs when he got injured. I mean, he's a really, really good player. Bryce Huff, perhaps at defensive end. But again, I think Jake's spot on. Like, there isn't a clear-cut super elite player I guess Chris Jones, but I don't think anyone expects Chris Jones to leave Kansas City. And I think that's even out of the 49ers price range with the way that they want to roll over salary cap space, the way that they want to handle things moving forward. I mean, they'll have to restructure a lot of dudes anyway. I don't know if they can restructure enough dudes to get Chris Jones onto the roster. And by the way, when you're hitting free agency, I mean, you probably only get one good free agent contract in your career unless you're a Hall of Famer. You're looking for that term. You're looking for a contract that can go as long as someone will give it to you. And that's not really where the 49ers are. They are in a 2-year window, unquestionably, perhaps longer. We'll find out. But financially, they're in a 2-year window to maximize. And they already got 1 million void years on the books and this and that. Jake and I are not of the mindset that the salary cap is real, but the 49ers are pushing up against the limits of reality here. They might find out that the salary cap's real in due time. And I don't think it will be a Saints situation because they've managed this a whole lot better. And they do have a lot of exit routes that they can take when when push does come to shove. But if you're signing a Chris Jones, you're doing it for like 6 years with probably a bad year tacked on at the end, maybe 2.
Right.
I don't think the Niners can afford that more so than the actual money that they'd have to pay Chris Jones in the short term. And again, I just don't see him leaving Kansas City.
Yeah, I'll throw one name out there that I'm not saying it makes financial sense, but if you wanted to be ruthless about it, you could cut Dre Greenlaw and go after Devin White. I'm saying if you really want to maximize your window and that's a position you're unsure about and you want to just swing for the fences, that's a name. He's 26. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I highly, highly doubt that they would do that. Yeah. They love Greenlaw. If he comes back, 80% of himself halfway through the year, I think they'll be happy with that. But if you're talking about a position that could actually make sense, swing for the fences in a free agency, a person who's on the right side of 30, Devin White, why not?
Yeah, great player.
I love me some Devin White. I've been a huge fan, but he did have his career low in tackles last year. He'd been hovering over like 110, 120. I think he had 83 last year. But man, this guy he's kind of like a delayed pass rusher. I mean, not only is he an inside backer, but he shoots gaps. He puts heat on the quarterback. I was driving around the other morning listening to my good friend John Lund, who I love like a brother, and Johnny was and Greg had Dave Lombardi on, and Dave was saying, hey, I know the above the salary cap list the Niners at $285,000 over the cap right now, but they have in his mind $296.6 million adjusted salary cap, the most in the NFL. That the cap is, 255.4. They're carrying over 36 from last year. They got some money back as a credit. The cap went up 31 million, and surprise, surprise, the Niners actually have a ton of cap room. So it's like
restructure 2 or 3 contracts on top of that with guys that you would never get rid of in the first place. And now you have, I think it was the 6th most salary cap space with very simple restructurings that are
if they want to, they can clear a ton of cap space.
They can get anybody they want. They can get anybody they want. It's just a question of can they afford the term of anybody that they want, and that is the factor. And it takes 2 to tango.
Yeah, and I mean, the restructuring. People talking about restructuring old guys. You don't want to restructure old guys. You want to restructure young guys that have a future. A restructure of an Eric Armstead just kicks the problem to tomorrow. The restructure of Trent Williams again just kind of kicks the ball further down the road. If you can restructure somebody who makes a lot of money on your roster who's relatively young, then you can actually get some work done. A Fred Warner, but they've already done some of these restructures.
That's right.
Okay, so if they do go after a premier name, I'm going to throw a name out here that immediately you guys are going to go, no, not a fit because of the relationship. But 2 years ago, Philly was damn good, or I should say last year, Philly was damn good with C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
I knew that's where you were going with it.
This year, he went to Detroit. Detroit was damn good. And even when C.J. Gardner-Johnson got healthy at the end of the year, he was still really good. I know him and Debo have this hatred for one another, but you know what? Get over it. The Niners need a difference maker, and they don't really know like what's going to happen in their secondary. Like maybe if Fonga's back and great, maybe he's not. Maybe, one of these young corners like Luter or whatever come of age, maybe they don't. So it's like they need a big-time player in their secondary, and they need a guy who can play all the spots. And this guy can play all the spots. He can play corner. He can play slot corner. He could be the nickel. He could be a strong safety. He could be a linebacker. You could play him at free in the deep middle. He can cover the ground. He's just an impact guy. And to me, I know him and Debo hate each other, but I'd be very interested.
Well, it turned out C.J. Gardner-Johnson was right, kind of, when he called Debo a running back. You saw what happened in the Super Bowl, and he got absolutely clamped by Trent McDuffie. Like, that's right. I'm not saying Gardner-Johnson didn't get the last laugh, but like his criticism was not unfounded.
I mean, no. Jalen Johnson would have been the guy, I think, at cornerback. Yeah. I mean, I don't think
he re-signed with the Bears.
Yeah, I don't think Snead's going anywhere. I mean, and then it gets pretty rough. And the big question I would have with Gardner-Johnson is I'm of the belief that his best position is in the slot. That's where he can make the most difference. That's where his versatility would really shine. I loved Jimmy Ward when he was in the slot, but I also loved Diamador Lenore when he was in the slot. You get him close to the ball and good things happen. So I have mentally already put in pen Diamador Lenore as the slot corner, the nickel corner for this team next year, which then leads to the question, well, who's opposite of Mooney? Who's the number 2? And Ambry Thomas would be the guy who's the leader in the clubhouse, but like, I don't think anyone's excited about that. Most of all the 49ers. You add in the Hufanga factor of it all. I mean, are they going to be a true cover 3 team with Brown as the single high safety? Then you got Hufanga in as sort of a Sam linebacker. Maybe this is just John Lynch seeing some of himself from 2002 in a guy like Hufanga, who might have been a better player in 2002 before the league opened up a little bit. Like, they love him. They can't get enough of him. I'm very skeptical about his ability to actually play the position of strong safety in the NFL in the modern era, in a cover 4, cover 2 era. But I think the 49ers are going to give him every single shot. And by all accounts, he's recovering very well from the ACL stuff. So I think that the big question marks are going to be defensive tackle, which you've already invested a lot of money. Do you invest more? As Hutch brought up, like, do you bring in a backup or even a starter will linebacker to replace Dre Greenlaw? And then defensive end, of course, we know that they have, was it Robert Beal under contract? That's about it.
Robert
Nick
Beal
Wright.
and the ghost of Drake Jackson.
Oh, so I forgot that Drake Jackson is alive, so that's cool. And then who is going to be the opposite corner? And there's probably some guys that the 49ers will like. It's a big name list of free agents at cornerback, but again, there's a reason these guys are hitting the market. And you know, it's a bit of a perilous scenario. But if I had to guess anywhere that the Niners were going to toss some serious money, I would say that they'd go after like a Kenny Moore from the Colts and toss some money his way.
Yeah, he's kind of what I'm talking about, but maybe better even in coverage.
Yeah,
than
you want him on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson is like what I think John Lynch would like, because John Lynch hit like a truck and this guy hits like a truck.
That's right.
But Kenny Moore might be the coverage player that they really need. Okay, so what about their own free agents, guys? I'm going to list their names, and you tell me at the end here if you can keep one or two who you want to keep out of this group. Chris Conley, Ray McLeod, John Feliciano, Matt Pryor, Ben Barch, Charlie Warner, Ross Dwelly, Brandon Allen, Sam Darnold. Juwan Jennings is restricted. He almost doesn't count because he can't really leave.
Right.
Unless he gets an overwhelming offer, and he may. He was God knows he would have been the Niners MVP of the Super Bowl if the game had somehow went their way.
Right.
And then on defense, you've got 60 linemen: Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Givens, Cleveland Farrell, Sebastian Joseph Day, 2 linebackers, Oren Burks, Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, and 2 DBs, Tayshaun Gibson and Logan Ryan.
Yeah.
You can have, let's say, 2 guys back, maybe 3, because I think that's probably their equation. They got 20, 21 free agents. They're going to let 17, 18 go. But who are the 2 or 3 out of the Niner free agents that you guys would bring back?
Hutch, we're both on Cleve Farrell, right? Like, you bring back Cleve Farrell.
Yeah. I would say my 2 would be Farrell and John Feliciano, just because Feliciano's cheap and just can play right guard, and you're going to feel fine about that.
How about Chris Conley, who made a huge catch in playoffs? I thought it was a massive. If you're going to let a guy like Burks go, which maybe that should be the guy who sticks around, maybe that's especially at the cost. Like, you can't just let somebody of whatever quality you think he is. He's an NFL caliber player, NFL caliber high-level special teams player. Like, you can't let him out the door. You can get away with letting Conley out the door, but I think Conley's smarts and his ability to play every position. Listen, if you're going to Chris Conley, something's probably gone wrong. That's a fair point, but
he made his plays. Like, when he got targeted, he made some huge catches, and only in the postseason.
Yeah, and he's a really good special teams guy, which, if you're looking at all the areas, I know it's super easy, and heaven knows we do it 99% of the time. Like, it's super easy to say, okay, how do you get a little bit better on offense? Well, they had the best offense in the NFL last year, so getting a little bit better would be quite a thing. How do you get better on defense? Well, there's a lot of areas, probably starting with having a better defensive coordinator, which they may or may not have done in hiring Sorensen and bringing in Brandon Staley. We'll find out on that one. That's the big mystery. But special teams, they were middling at best. And I think Ray McLeod has got to go out the door. He doesn't do anything for you as a wide receiver. And as a kick and punt returner, he was competent at best, which made him a massive upgrade over everybody else on the team. But I think you can go into the draft and find 2 guys even who can give themselves a shot at the role that Ray McLeod has played over the last couple of years. is a kick and a punt returner and a guy who can slide in if a Debo is out at a at Z receiver. Like I don't see any reason to bring Ray back, and probably that's the reason why I'd lean towards keeping Chris Conley in there, because having just a solid 6 receiver at the absolute cheapest possible rate who can play special teams and you can call up every week and do that practice squad nonsense that they love to do, every team loves to do. I think there's some real value there, but it's not a terribly impressive list of free agents. I mean, it makes it a lot easier for the 49ers to execute the Larry Krueger plan of letting like 90% of the guys go.
It's like in Madden when you get to the end of the season and there's maybe one guy you want to retain and the rest you're like, whatever. I'll let the computer pick up a guys, which is not to just discredit all these guys, but it's that sort of list.
I will say this. I mean, Charlie Warner will probably come back. He's tight with Kittle, and he's fine as a third tight end. But they need to upgrade at second tight end, which means that Ross Dwelly's got to go. This has been a long time coming. Offensive line, I mean, they certainly need to make upgrades. Maybe they pay the big money. Maybe they do a lot in the draft. Maybe they find guys who they feel fit the system. Heaven knows there's enough teams that run a similar system. They can probably find a guy or two. But defensive end, I mean, they're going to lose some defensive tackle depth too. I know we're not the biggest Kinlaw dudes. I don't know if anyone is a big Kinlaw dude besides Kinlaw.
I will say for Kinlaw, for Kinlaw, if he gets on a team that runs some 5-man fronts, uses him mostly on passing downs, that's a role for him. Like he was good at that, especially early in the year.
He's a defensive end, masquerading as a tackle. Like
I don't disagree.
That's a big problem when you are massive.
But his run defense is just you can't play him at tackle, and I don't think that's even up for debate.
Yeah. It's funny. I think we're all kind of on the same page on basically the free agents. I agree with Conley. There's nothing not to like. His price is cheap, and there's I think it's you're not bringing back Conley and Ray. It's a Conley and I would go with Conley. They've already kind of stated they like Feliciano. I like Feliciano. He can play multiple guards, all 3 spots in the middle as a backup. He knows how to play. He's not going to whiz down his leg if there's a big game. So, I mean,
I tweet some stuff, but other than that,
he has the thing with Burford, but even that's a nothing play.
I think Burford's a good enough guy. It's fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
They're going to, there's a lot of people who are like, Feliciano cannot come back. No, no, it's not that level. It's not that level of discord. I could see them bringing back Ben Barch just because they acquired him midseason, and I know that they like him at center and guard.
Yeah.
Warner, I can see. Yeah, the one name that you guys didn't grab, and I agree, almost all the defenders probably moving on. I mean, Burks struggled in the Super Bowl. To me,
I thought he was good to start in the Super Bowl, but then
once they went to man, it's like, what the hell are you doing? You don't. He's not a man-to-man guy. But when they were in zone, he was really, I thought, rock solid. And then Kansas City, to their credit, figured out ways to get Travis Kelce matched up on him one-on-one, and Wilkes just decided to play directly into that by going man. And it's like, arguably the greatest tight end or receiving tight end in the history, or the best since Kellen Winslow, versus your, third string linebacker who's in there for special teams. Yeah, that's not going to go great. It's not going to go great. So another reason why Steve Wilkes was fired.
Something happened with my audio right there. Why am I hearing Dieter now through the computer?
Well, that's a terrible sign. We don't want that at all.
Can you guys all hear Dieter just fine, or did something happen with the audio? Jake, do you hear Dieter any different?
Yeah, you sound a little different, but
you sound a bit spacey. But Jake and I
sound a little different.
A little spacey.
Yeah, you sound a little spacey.
All right, let me do this. I hate to do this. I'll be right back. I will leave and I will come back on my own stream. Maybe that will make the audio better. If you guys could just, I don't know, be yourselves and talk amongst yourselves for
great.
Do we want to talk Tayshaun Gibson, Jake, as we've now hijacked Larry's stream? I mean, do you bring him back at $2.9 million? Finally, the coup is complete, by the way. This is our January 6th. We've taken over Larry's stream. It's Gibson, 33 years old. I mean, you can let him hit the market. It's not like he's going to have a robust market in any way, shape, or form. But, he we can go in on all the negatives. There are plenty of positives to be gleaned too. He's not a spectacular player by any stretch, but the 49ers felt very comfortable having him out there. And he did some good things for this team, with Hufanga still being a bit of a question mark. And then, you're going to put Brown in a very high leverage situation as the free safety. Is it not a bad idea, especially with the market, which is going to compress any money that he could get to the point where he might not even get another job?
Safety market's brutal every year in general.
I mean, they could probably bring in somebody better, but then they'd have to teach him the system, which maybe they do, maybe they don't. They can bring in somebody better. They really can't pay anyone more than they would pay Tayshaun Gibson, right? Because now we're thinking third safety. Is it a bad idea to just have him on the roster and just have him around and say, maybe do some special team stuff for us?
No, for me, it's like, does he want to keep playing? Fair. I mean, it seemed like he was kind of viewing this like, maybe this is my last year. Does he have the juice to keep going after this? If he does, if he's bought in and the price is, I don't know what the right price is. I'd say 2.5.
Well, he made 2.9 last year, so yeah, it'd probably be a pay cut or the exact same amount of money, just given the percentage and stuff.
Yeah, but at that price, I think that's fine. He's a guy who understands the scheme, which I guess maybe that evolves a little bit. But Sorensen worked in the secondary. He's a guy that garners so much respect in that locker room. It doesn't hurt to have a safety who's a veteran that knows exactly what you're doing. He's still physical. He can still, he still puts it out there. So $2.5 million. It's hard to find.
It's
maybe there's somebody better.
1% of your salary cap.
Right. Maybe there's somebody who is a better fit, but if he wants to keep going, I don't think that's a damning amount of money. And I'd be fine throwing that his way. Plus, it's not my money. Yeah, remember that, folks. I think that's important to remember. It's not your money. So
it's not your money.
Encourage your teams to spend all of it.
It's in fact Fox and Amazon and CBS's and NBC's money, and they have given it to the NFL. And the NFL, I mean, there is not a team in the NFL that needs to sell a single ticket, sell a single jersey, sell a single radio broadcast contract. They don't need to do anything. These teams entirely can operate off of the annual TV money payouts, and that's more or less what the salary cap is every year. So, and with a cap, by the way, like, you don't have to worry about being reckless. It'd be great because the 49ers would be able to afford anybody they wanted with no salary cap. They could be the Yankees of football, but that era is well over, and this is a team that operates pretty well on the budget concerns. And as much as Parag has gotten a lot of negative feedback from the fans, and well-deserved for a long stretch, he has done a pretty masterful job with this, because it seems as if the mindset of the 49ers, it's not even seems, clearly the mindset of the 49ers as it pertains to going out and winning a Super Bowl and spending the money requisite to win a Super Bowl has changed dramatically over the last couple of years, after a lot of years of very conservative spending. Let me throw another name at you here, Jake, as we wait for Larry, or not, in which case, congratulations. Welcome to our new channel.
For the next 2 hours until Larry gets back.
We're stealing all of his subscribers. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles is a free agent. He is a guy who they have used in special teams before. We're talking a lot of special teams. I mean, this is high grade stuff. But as we talk about a guy like Burks, okay, Burks at 2.5, Flannigan-Fowles at 1.8. Like, maybe you need to bring them both back. Maybe you need to just make sure you have the depth at linebacker, because a lot of people are thinking Azeez. I get it. Makes a lot of sense. No one's arguing that
Azeez he's going to be out of their range just a little bit.
I mean, did he play all that well in Tennessee? I recall the fact that he's hitting the market.
I'm not going to pretend like I watched a ton of Titans last year. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I mean, if Mike Vrabel was the DC, maybe he'd be back. But like, Flannigan-Fowles seems like somebody who they might be remiss to let exit, because I'm not sure they can immediately replace his systematic know-how. And again, if you're in a situation much like with Chris Conley, where Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles is playing for you a lot, like, something's gone wrong, but there are a lot of spots that need to be filled by guys who just know what the hell they're doing. And if you're paying less than 1% of the salary cap for one of those guys, I mean, do the 49ers feel like they're in a position where they can draft somebody and teach them how to be Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles immediately? Like, I don't think that they should have that confidence.
I didn't know you were a Flannigan-Fowles guy, first of all.
I'm not, but like, I look at that's a position of real concern, right? You have
Yeah.
the best middle linebacker in the league, and then a grab bag of what the hell is going to happen. And, maybe you can get somebody better than Flanagan Fowles, but I'd like to have Flanagan Fowles in my back pocket just in case.
It's a good point. It's a guy who's been around, who knows the system. And when I say system, he knows special teams and defense.
That's right.
And while it seems like, special teams shouldn't be that hard to learn, to have a guy who knows exactly what's asked and is just reliable in that regard is pretty useful. Also, you end up having, usually have 6 linebackers and only, 5 are up for game day. So at least one of them has got to be a special teams guy.
Right.
I will say they've still got Jalen Graham and D. Winters. Those are they always have like 2 linebackers, right? That they either draft in the 6th or 7th round or undrafted free agents that you go into training camp and before they've even played a snap, people are like, these guys are the best linebackers ever.
They do identify well.
Right. They're guys who they'll have a shot in training camp. And I think the 49ers will end up drafting another linebacker. I think 6th, 7th round, and probably an undrafted one, and they've been super skilled at that. So my only hesitation with Flanagan Fowles is like, if it's the minimum, absolutely. If it's like a little bit over that, maybe you think twice about it. But again, like I said, spend a little bit of money, keep guys keep guys you are familiar with and who are familiar with your system.
And by the way, like any of these guys that we're talking about, if you spend on them, it's not going to be noticeable. I mean, this is a rounding error. And none of these guys are looking for big time pay increases or 10% raises or anything like that. You are just giving these guys a job at probably the cost roughly that they had last year, at least relative to the cap. 2 guys who are on this list of free agents that I think we need to touch on here as we wait for Larry or not is the backup quarterbacks, right? So Sam Darnold comes in. I don't know what Sam Darnold really did. I mean, he got a job.
I will say the narrative around Sam Darnold,
kind of toxic.
It's like people are acting like he did. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. Like he was, by all accounts,
present.
Right. He did the right things, showed a couple flashes, I guess. But it's one of those things where people are pretending like he showed so much that like he's like basically is worth considering. Is some fans are considering him like starting caliber, and maybe that works out. Maybe
Vikings fans
fully rehabilitated himself. But
I mean, there's a real buzz that he's going to get a placeholder starting job somewhere in the league, whether it be Washington with Adam Peters or if Kirk Cousins goes to the Falcons, as is being currently rumored, which good luck to you. Minnesota's wide open there because it's not like they're going to Nick Mullins. And, it's one of these things where you get the Kyle pixie dust on you. And now Sam Darnold is fixed from all of his woes that he had with the Jets. Not sure how that makes any sense. I didn't see anything that says that he's now the best version of Sam Darnold, which would be spectacular. We all saw what he did at USC and why he was drafted 3rd overall. But I think Darnold's out the door. He's clearly going to get a raise from somebody for reasons somewhat unknown, other than Kyle Shanahan gave him his blessing, kissed him on the forehead and said
other
goodbye.
Than that, he's still 27, has arm talent, and Kyle Shanahan was like, I kind of trust this guy. So,
do you trust Brandon Allen to be the backup next year for a team that
Hey,
Larry Krueger. I'm back. Hey. Sorry about that. Audio problems. That's where I wanted to go, actually. I'm glad that Dieter, and thank you guys for filibustering, and I'm sure it was high quality.
Oh, we love the filibuster.
You guys are
pretty much our show.
You guys are like the human rain delay. I mean, I could seriously, I could trust you guys to do like an hour. But Brandon Allen, Sam Darnold, one of the questions today that I saw up was on Twitter saying that the Patriots are shopping Mac Jones. Yeah. And we saw the same thing about Zach Wilson, and there's been a number of people writing about these guys. Do you want Darnold back? Do you want Brandon Allen back? Do you want Allen back as the 2, as the 3? Do you want Darnold back as the 2? Would you rather them go let Darnold walk and do it in the draft and make Brandon Allen the 2, or Do you like the idea of trading for a Mac Jones for the 6th or 7th round pick, or Zach Wilson of a 6th or 7th round pick, or somebody else we're not thinking of? Where are you at the quarterback? Who's in your guys' quarterback room behind Purdy?
I kind of like Mac Jones as a backup quarterback.
Honestly, Mac Jones is like, here's
It's
the
like
thing about
2.1
Mac
million.
Jones. Like, when you go back to the draft, the hesitation towards drafting him was not that he would not be a fit, right? It was that he didn't have the arm talent, athleticism, or any measurable qualities to make you say this guy's worthy of a first-round pick. In the
3
third
first-round
round,
picks in a way. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. If it was just like if it was the 12th overall pick, that the 49ers initially had, it might have been a conversation. But Jones just didn't have, like, you looked at him and you're like, okay, I could see him in Kyle's system. If it was like a 7th rounder, a 6th rounder, I'm not saying they should definitely do it. I'm not into Zach Wilson. But Mac Jones, I'm not like frothing at the mouth, but I don't hate it.
I'd like to say with Mac Jones, like, everyone wants to say hell no. I'd imagine that a good number of those people were probably saying hell yes with Sam Darnold. And I just see no difference. I mean, obviously there's a talent discrepancy, no question about it. But like, Mac Jones had his moments where I don't think Sam Darnold had any moments with the Jets. Jake, you're up a Jets fan. You probably know better. But like, I can't recall Sam Darnold having anything that he did with the Jets give you this indication that, like, hey, there's something here. It was all his collegiate talent, which is still unquestioned. But talent gets you in the league. It doesn't keep you in the league. And Mac Jones might not be long for this league, but he had moments with the Patriots where you go, he knows what the hell he's doing. He's knowing how to operate. And by the way, like, Bill Belichick hasn't drafted a good wide receiver since Julian Edelman, who was a quarterback. Like, it's the talent discrepancy between the 49ers offense, and we can talk about, some of the deficiencies they have, but between the 49ers offense and the Patriots offense is night and day. And it's not to say that Mac Jones would just come in and be a star or whatever, but for a very late round pick, which, by the way, you have too many of them to begin with. So just toss one on the toss a log on the fire. And for $2 million, which is probably going to be what you have to pay Brandon Allen anyway. Like, I see no reason why Mac Jones wouldn't be a fit. Clearly, Kyle liked him during the draft, and all of the things that were concerning about Mac Jones, that he couldn't elevate his teammates, that he wasn't, an athletic marvel, that his leadership was a little iffy. Like, I don't see why that'd be a problem for a backup quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. And by the way, if I'm Mac Jones, I'm begging for this. I'll throw in some money.
Oh yeah.
I'll throw in some money. Give me that kiss.
All these guys want this. I mean, Zach Wilson, I guarantee you wants to be a Niner. Mac Jones, I guarantee you would like to be a Niner.
Yeah.
The question is, I guess my first question is, what are these guys? Do we know what they are? Do we not know what they are?
That's a great question.
It's deeply existential, Larry.
Yeah, like, what are these guys? It's like, is Mac Jones
probably?
There was a report. There was a report coming out of the combine that there were several people that said that if Mac Jones had just been drafted to the Niners, that the Niners would have already won a couple Super Bowls by now with Mac Jones. There's no question he can process what he sees. He's really accurate, and the ball comes out on time. The question is the Mac Jones that's the real Mac Jones the guy that we saw as a rookie who looked pretty good? Yeah. Or is he the guy who we saw in year 2 when his offensive coordinator was really a defensive coach? Mm-hmm. Was he a guy that we saw in year 2 and 3 where the Patriots just have no good weapons at all offensively? It's like the worst offensive weaponry in the league. I mean, the Niners may have backups and the Niners practice squad receivers might be better than what
Juwan Jennings would unquestionably be their best wide receiver.
I mean, their best wide receivers were Pop Douglas, who's like 5'6", and
I like
Kendrick
him, DeMario.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's a good player.
They're
I guess.
Nice, but they're not stars. There's no Ayuk, there's no Debo, there's no Kittle, there's no big time guy. So is Mac really good? And just, and then there's the other thing. Is Mac kind of a whiny little bitch kind of a guy? You know what I'm saying? Is he not a good culture fit? And then with Zach Wilson, I think Zach Wilson's got plenty of arm talent and upside potential, but is he going to be a good second. I mean, the one thing about Sam Darnold, he was there for Brock Purdy this year, man. He was there. He ran. Jake knows. I mean, you know, Brock told us, hey, when I came off the field, Sam was the first guy there to tell me, you know, what I've done wrong or what I could do better or to help me out, help me see the picture. It sounds like Darnold really leaned in to his backup status this year. But, like, is he a fit going forward or does he now want to play? You know, it's like it's kind of I need some like answers that go beyond just what I saw on the field.
Well, I'll say
I think real quick, it's easier to be there when you know that's only going to be a 1-year thing. Like, I'll be a good leader. I'll help out. I'll just be the best culture guy ever because that's sort of what he signed up for, and it's to rehabilitate his image. So if you're signing up for 1 year to do that, I'm not saying Darnold didn't do that genuinely. He did. Seem like he did. Yeah. But it's much easier when that's what you're signing up for at the start.
And with the Mac Jones sort of locker room issues, like maybe that stuff does carry forward, but that entire 49ers locker room is around one dude. And Mac Jones isn't coming in and challenging anybody's notion of who the starting quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers is. Sure as hell not now. So, I mean, I'll say this with chemistry. All that matters is that Brian Griese likes him. Because Brian Griese commands respect in that room, and it matters that Kyle likes him because Kyle gets respect from everybody in the league who knows anything about offense. And the notion that Mac Jones, you know, wouldn't be able to do it. Like, Mac Jones might be coaching high school football here in 2 years. Like, he better get in line with being a good teammate, being somebody who, you know, can learn from Kyle. Like, Mac's got a dopey face. Let's just call it what it is. He got the hangdog face, kind of dopey, doughy body. I think that we judge a book by its cover a little bit there. And if you were the quarterback of the New England Patriots last year, you'd be bitching and whining and complaining too, because you got just an abysmal coaching staff. Can't believe we're saying that about Bill Belichick coaching staff, but here we are. You have an abysmal coaching staff and no offensive weaponry. You have no mobility, and you're dying on damn near every play in a division that was pretty loaded. Like, I'd be complaining a little bit too. And I think there's a lot of quarterbacks who would have done a whole lot worse than Mac Jones. I mean, Brandon Allen is in-house. He is, by all accounts, a very nice guy. I think, you know, he's probably overqualified for being a number 3, maybe a bit underqualified for being a number 2. Like, he is stuck somewhere in the middle here. I keep coming back to this. The 49ers should know better than anybody that your backup quarterback is going to play. And he might even start a game or 5 or 10. And if you don't maximize that position, you could be in for a world of hurt in a 2-year window to win a Super Bowl. You're wasting a year of Brandon Ayuk's prime. You're wasting a year of Trent Williams while you have him. You're wasting a year of Fred Warner if you don't maximize your quarterback room. And the 49ers did that last year by having 3 quality guys all in roles that they were probably, you know, obviously Purdy was great, but Sam Darnold probably could have started somewhere in the league or at least been in a position to get more reps as a number 1. And Brandon Allen probably was overqualified for 3. Like, I think you need to have 3 quarterbacks. And if Mac Jones is one of them, who, by the way, he's cheap, you know, he's going to fit the system, and he needs this more than the 49ers need him. I just don't see a problem with that at all. And if he doesn't get in line, if it is a problem, just cut his ass. What's it matter?
Yep.
You gave up a compensatory pick that you got for free, and it's $2 million. They paid $2 million for Nate Sudfeld to go away so that Brock Purdy could be the backup. They never thought about it twice. So, I mean, we're talking about minuscule amounts of money as it pertains to the salary cap, less than 1%, for a player that, I mean, of all the backup quarterback options that you can get for that price, which is a pick that you don't care about, and $2.5 million, are you doing any better than Mac Jones?
I don't think so. I'm with you on that. I think, again, the things you went in to the draft with him were that he could see the field, that he could process well, that he could deliver the ball on time. It was all stuff that it made sense. It made sense for Kyle Shanahan, and that's why it was like, did Kyle actually really want Mac Jones? And then they sort of panicked and realized, oh God.
Sure, should have been better than Trey Lance in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a better question. Just when is the next time Trey Lance plays in a game? Like,
he might be the
wondering
backup for the Cowboys next year. But
Jerry Jones said great things about him today. Did you see that?
He's a nice kid. I didn't see that.
No, they were just, you know, he's singing his praises, and I hope it all works out for Trey.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I would say, and I did this little breakdown earlier this week. So the draft class of quarterbacks this year, you say Drake May, people, it's going to be great. Jaden Daniels, he takes your breath away. Caleb Williams, transformational prospect, whatever.
Yeah.
Michael Penix was great at the combine and had a great year for UW. JJ McCarthy, he's a winner. He just never loses. He's lost like 3 games since he was born.
Yeah.
Bo Nix.
Easy when you go to Michigan in the IMG Academy, by the way.
Right. Bo Nix is going to be great. 45 touchdowns and 3 picks.
He's also 45 years old.
It's the same thing that we hear every year about the top prospects. They're all great. It's a Tony the Tiger thing. And then reality hits and they're not all great. And then reality hits and most of them are busts. And then, I'm looking at Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Terry Bradshaw wasn't good at the beginning. Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Roger Staubach, Dan Fouts, Sonny Jurgensen, Kurt Warner, Lenny Dawson, they all made it to the Hall of Fame. None of these guys was good initially.
Well, maybe not Sonny Jurgensen. Let's be clear about Washington Commanders' great Sonny Jurgensen here. He came in and immediately changed that team.
Kurt Warner, but he wasn't 28 until he got his opportunity.
That's right.
Steve Young wasn't real. Steve Young went 3-16 in his first 2 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with 11 touchdowns and 20 some
Bill
odd
Walsh
picks.
was the only guy who saw anything in him. He was going to be out of the league. He was going to go play USFL again.
And then you look at those rookie quarterbacks, and none of them can fail. And then you look at young quarterbacks right now that have failed in the NFL that are out there that are still not 27 yet. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Sam Darnold, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Davis Mills, Sam Howell, Trey Lance, Jake Browning, Drew Lock, Bryce Young, Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Aiden O'Connell. All those guys are young still, but they haven't done it yet, and they haven't looked good yet. And then you've got all those the knowledge of knowing that several Hall of Fame quarterbacks weren't good until they were like 26, 27, 28. And it's like, would you rather invest in one of those 6 rookie quarterbacks that everybody thinks is going to be great? Or would you want to take your hand at picking one of these, they were going to be great quarterbacks, but suddenly just aren't in the NFL? I mean, Dieter said something really interesting. It's like maximizing your quarterback room. Like the 49ers can't give away another season because of bad quarterback play. Well, they got their guy. His name's Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
But what if Brock Purdy has an injury and misses 7 weeks?
That's right.
Do you want to go forward and try to win with Brandon Allen? Is Sam Darnold good enough? Or would you rather have Mac Jones? Would you rather have Zach Wilson? Would you rather trade for Davis Mills? Or would you draft, Joe Milton in his crazy skill set, or Sam Hartman from Notre Dame, or Michael Pratt, who they worked out from Tulane, or Spencer Rattler, who was the MVP of the Senior Bowl? You know what I'm saying? It's like, when you really look hard at all these prospects, suddenly Mac Jones sounds pretty attractive to me.
And we do this, you nailed it, Larry. Like, we do this every year because we view the draft as this isolated thing. It's not. The draft is just an extension of overall player acquisition. So, like, if Mac Jones was in this draft, where would he go? Knowing what we know about Mac Jones, probably wouldn't go 1, 2, or 3, maybe not even 4. But, like, I'd take Mac Jones over Bo Nix. Like, the problem is in the draft, everyone convinces themselves the priority. If you want a quarterback, you got to take him. There's a premium that's placed on these guys in terms of the cost, which is, of course, their draft position, because they don't cost that much overall. But it is, they'd be totally remiss not to replace Darnold in some way. And if you look at the way that,
or is Darnold coming back?
But I think Darnold's going to get a raise, which is the thing, because I think there's enough teams like Washington and Minnesota, if they lose Cousins, and maybe Atlanta, if they don't, like, there's going to be teams that are going to be like, oh, shit, we'll just sign Sam Darnold and we'll get through a year and we'll go from there. A Sam Howell would be an interesting player as a backup quarterback. Like, he's a perfect backup quarterback. He's chaos. and he makes stuff happen, good and bad. But like, you can get by with the Sam Howell. Maybe a little Kyle Shanahan would help that kid out. Maybe not. I don't know. But
just for the record, I won a Super Bowl with Malik Cunningham in Madden last night. So I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe
deeply important.
Maybe go that way.
I mean,
no,
he's super athletic. Right, I'll say that. Malik Cunningham. I actually really liked Malik Cunningham in the draft process, and I kind of liked him in the preseason. I don't know if you guys caught him at all in the preseason.
He looked really good in the preseason. Then they cut him. So it shows what they know over in New England. I mean, I can't believe that these words are coming out of my mouth. I mean, listen, the guy that would be most interesting to me is a guy who's unavailable. And I'm not talking about like Mahomes or anything, but like Daniel Jones, who looks like he's out in New York. Like, he would be such an interesting concept for Kyle Shanahan. The problem is the cost is way too high because the Giants gave him just a massive $40 million contract. And it's all going to come back to the contracts. It's all going to come back to the money. And the 49ers are paying their quarterback half of 1% of the salary cap for the next 2 years. And if you don't maximize your quarterback room with the leader making $1 million flat, like, then you're not very good at roster building. It's just full stop. And I think that they did a great job of it last year. That was as good a quarterback room as existed in the league. And when you think about the cost savings that you can get for a retread, a guy who is coming off of a bad term as a starter, you bring him in, he's going to be cheap. He wants to rehabilitate his image. He wants to get that Kyle Shanahan magic on him. You can get him on the cheap. He can come in, be a backup, and maybe he can do what Darnold does. Maybe he can go out and get a really solid number 2 quarterback contract in the future. And then, drafting quarterbacks, Jake and I have long been of the mindset, and this is a mind meld scenario. We disagree on things sometimes, but like, every year you should take a quarterback in the 6th or 7th round.
Take a swing late every year.
Why not? Because I'm not saying that they're all going to be Brock Purdy or anyone will be Brock Purdy, but I don't think anyone knows what the hell they're talking about with quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes was the 10th pick. I thought he was going to be a total bust. Turns out he is not.
So did the 49ers.
I mean, yeah, they didn't even look at him. I mean, so Daniel Jones goes 8, they give him $40 million, and 1 year later, they're like, anybody but Daniel Jones. Like, I don't think anyone knows what the hell they're doing at quarterback. The 49ers have a great track record of proving they don't know what the hell they're doing at quarterback, despite the fact that they have a quarterback. They traded 3 first-round picks for a guy who they thought was a running quarterback who was slow as hell, and then they used the last pick on the draft and a guy that they really liked, and they just were taking a flyer, and he turned out to be the one who could take them to a level they hadn't been to before. If anyone pretends like they know what they're doing here, like, I think they're foolhardy. So just take some swings on guys who are cheap. Don't pay for quarterbacks and see where you end up. Because if you have 4 or 5 guys you can put in the hopper every year, maybe one of them ends up being that number 2. Maybe one of them clearly becomes that number 3. But I would give yourself as many spins at the roulette table as you could, because that's really all this game is.
I would say if you stick with Brandon Allen as your QB2, draft the guy in late round or priority undrafted free agent. Either way, you're going to need probably 4 arms going into training camp. So
behind Purdy, three or 4 behind Purdy.
Maybe draft. If I would say, look at somebody like Mac Jones. That's not a bad option. Bring Brandon Allen back. Take a late swing in the draft or pick up a priority free agent.
It's the most important position. You can never have too many swings at it. And, a Joe Milton is an interesting name. I mean, I saw him at Tennessee a bunch, and it's like, I don't know.
He's a crazy thrower. I don't know if he's any good, but his numbers this year were not bad. I think he had
they run the most gimmicky offense in America. They run more plays than anybody else. It's 40 minutes of hell on a football field. And we saw how that worked for the Arkansas Razorbacks and my Missouri Tigers down. Like, it is, listen, if it's in the 6th, 7th round, what the hell? Do whatever the hell you want. Like, it doesn't matter. These picks, you can cut them. But as soon as you get into the territory where it's like, okay, top 100 picks, you need to have a clear job day 1. If you're a first rounder, you need to be a starter day 1. If you are so that's day 1, day 2 right there. Those are guys who have roles. Those are guys that you expect to be on your team. If you're in day 3 and you see Joe Milton and Kyle Shanahan says, I'd like to find out what that's about, take a swing. Why not? Like, I don't see any reason to. Find some guy from a Division II school that you really like his grainy film on Huddle. Take him too. Like, it doesn't matter.
Or a Division III guy. Shout out Brock Rudder. The guy the 49ers had in the COVID season, who I think they very quickly cut.
Yeah, Chicago legend.
All right, so if we're going to go with – okay, so we've talked a lot about it. And Michael Diaz says, Larry, what about drafting Joe Milton or Sam Hartman? Joe Milton is so intriguing to me. I mean, the guy is 6'6", he's 250. He's got an absolute rocket. I mean, the guy's got a cannon.
He doesn't know where it's going, but he does have a cannon.
Right. So then it's like, do you go with Brock Purdy as your 1, Brandon Allen as your 2, and Joe Milton as your wild card 3, and take a shot on a guy with crazy measurables?
Yeah. Or
do you go, with Brock as your 1, Brandon Allen as your 3, and go with a guy that I personally think that I'm sure that Mac Jones, that Kyle looked at Mac Jones and said, well, look, he's a pocket passer, but unlike Jimmy, he knows he can think the game and he knows where he wants to go with the ball. Mm-hmm. And I just think they got to the top 3 and I don't think they realized that their fan base was wanting like a next level guy. And then it was like, well, wait a second, are we going to draft this guy that we don't have that much conviction on over a next level athlete like a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields? And they went with Trey Lance, and it obviously didn't work out. In some ways, I'm looking at it this way. Who do I think, if Brock goes down in October for a month, could win games so that when Brock comes back, we still have a chance to run to the Super Bowl? That's the barometer. Like if you're saying, well, how would I kind of make sense of the whole thing? Yeah, Milton's got more upside potential than Mac Jones. But you know what? If I can get Mac Jones for a late 5th, an early 6th, or a 7th, or some trade thereof of a late day 3 pick, I think the Mac Jones that's the real Mac Jones is the rookie year Mac Jones, who was really pretty good. The question I would have is, how does that impact the Niners' chemistry if you've got Mac there as a young guy really wanting to assert himself as the leader, and you've got the team wed to Brock Purdy? I try not to think too much about these things because I'm a personnel guy at my core, and I just believe in get the best players and don't worry about anybody's feelings, mine, yours, Kyle's, or anybody's. And that's kind of where I'm at roster building. I don't care if Nick Bosa likes who I'm getting or not. I really don't care. I'm going to get the best players, and he'll like winning. That's what I'll bank on. So in my room, I'm going Brock Purdy is my 1. I'm trading a day 3 pick for Mac Jones, and I'm having Brandon Allen back in his exact same role for $1 million, $1.1 million, whatever, to be the 3rd string guy. Yeah. In that scenario, though, what am I paying Mac Jones?
$2.7 million.
Yeah, so that's a deal because you paid Sam $5 last year.
And this is the last year of his contract. And by the way, if Mac Jones wants to come in and be like, I'm taking this job, buddy, you just got traded for a toss-away day 3 pick, and the Patriots, who have no talent, decided they wanted to get rid of you. Like, they were moving on. But like, I don't know how you can get off on that.
No, I know, but I'm not worried about, how he feels, but does he have the mental maturity to not blow up the room? That's what I want to know. I need to know from him.
The backup quarterback in the corner. I mean, in the
locker room, I need to know that he's coming in the right frame of mind, which is you understand the pecking order and you understand we've already gone to a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy. We've already gone to 2 NFC title games with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is the guy, but I want you to prepare like you're going to play, because if Brock Purdy's not the guy, I do believe in you. And I believe that you can operate the system and win games. So in my room, I got Purdy, Mac, and Brandon Allen, 1, 2, 3. What I want to know from you guys before we move off this topic is who is in your quarterback room right now going forward to next year?
Yeah, Larry, I would say on the concerns about first Mac like coming in and having an attitude. Again, one, you can just cut him, even if it is a late day 3 pick, whatever. I also think that the foundation that Darnold set,
late day 3 pick anyway.
Right, Darnold's going to go and make some money. He set the tone of like, oh, this is what you come in and do, and it's also like Kyle's not going to put up with any shit, Like, I think what's interesting to me, and I'm kind of with you, I honestly think Mac is a really intriguing number 2. And I might say if it's late round 6, yeah, take that pick. I'll take Mac as my number 2. Brandon Allen's my number 3. I think that's a really solid QB room. What I would say is Mac basically got the experience that Brock Purdy got at Arizona State. Like Brock Purdy had to try and carry the offense and do everything.
At Iowa State.
Did I say Arizona State? Sorry,
Yeah.
I got confused. He's
Brock
from
Purdy
Arizona.
wishes.
Right, Iowa State. Yeah, so you got the Iowa State experience trying to carry an offense with New England. It didn't go well. Whereas Brock came in and he's like, oh, this is super easy. And I think if you bring Mac in from the Patriots after what he's been through, he's going to be like, oh my God, I have an offensive coordinator who understands what offense is. I'm
back at Alabama,
weapons.
baby.
Right. That's what I mean. So I'm with you. I understand the hesitation towards Mac Jones. I felt the hesitation going into the draft, but I've looked at him play, and I think if you put him around an offense with a coordinator who understands what he's doing and offensive weapons, it's hard for me not to see that as a very good cheap backup option.
I'd like to throw one other name in the hat. I mean, I'm not sure Brandon Allen is. If he comes back as a 3,
mine are Brock, Mac, and Allen. Jake's are who again?
I would take
Brock?
the same room. I just don't think there's anyone else in the price range that makes sense.
I think Nick Mullins is going to get cut from the Vikings, and I wouldn't mind having him as the 3. And I think Kyle
Not a bad idea.
Agree.
Okay.
They did.
So you're
numbers.
going who is the 2?
Mac Jones. We're somehow all in agreement on Mac Jones.
We're all on Mac Jones. All right. Well, you know what?
You're not doing any better for a number 2 at the price. Full stop.
I don't think it's crazy. I think Mac Jones is, what I see with Mac Jones, and I don't know him as a guy, of course.
No.
And I don't know about him as a leader, but that's my bigger concern. But I see a guy who is super smart and the ball comes out on time with accuracy. And that's valuable. You can win with that. And in reality, that is what Brock Purdy is. Mac Jones throws with accuracy and anticipation. Brock Purdy throws with accuracy and anticipation. In a lot of ways, if you want to not miss a beat, Jones would be a better call than a Joe Milton. And I love Joe Milton's upside potential, and it's intriguing. But if it comes down to Brock's hurt in November and you're going to go to Joe Milton or Mac Jones, oh my God, I'm going to Mac Jones every time. Joe Milton might be awesome, but you might be out of the playoff picture in 3 weeks.
There's a name that has not been brought up, and it will never happen. But I want it so bad, and Jake knows where I'm going.
Carson Wentz?
No, Jameis Winston. Can you imagine the fun that we would have with Jameis Winston out there
Pure
in a Kyle
vibes.
Shanahan offense?
Pure vibes.
Just ripping it. No regard to whom he's throwing the ball, but just ripping it. Kyle is already pretty tightly
Kyle's
wound.
face on the sideline, cursing into his play sheet, coaching Jameis Winston. I mean, nothing would be
a very
more
young heart
entertaining.
attack for Kyle Shanahan, and that would be really tragic. But God, that would be fun as hell. Like if you have a third quarterback and you're like, season's over, you can have a lot less fun with other guys, or you can have a ton of fun with Jameis Winston.
There's some upside potential there for sure with Jameis Winston. I mean, he can throw the rock. There's no question.
He's like Ronald Acuna.
He can throw the rock. All right, a couple more before we let you go. Are the Niners going to have, if it came right down to it, do you think they're more likely to draft Jerry's kid or Christian's brother? Or Frank's kid?
Frank's kid. It's got to be
Frank's
that's a good
Frank's
question,
in the organization, but I'll say this. I talked to Christian about his brother, and it was like, I really want to play with my brother. And Christian's kind of like one of the most valuable guys in the entire team. And then his brother is I'm a prospect hound. I really like the brother. Why? Because the kid only played 1 year. He was a quarterback. Yeah. He only played wide receiver this year for the first time.
He also catches every single pass.
He was all conference. how many guys go from
Conference,
position switch to all conference in 1 year?
I think there's like 4 teams left in Conference USA though, which is a bit
I
of a
know.
problem.
But I mean, this, Luke McCaffrey then ran a pretty good 40 time. He's got good height. I personally love all 3 guys, and I would love them even if they weren't related to Niners. Frank Gore Jr.'s got Frank Gore's exact style. He's a very efficient cutter. He can run inside. He's got enough speed to go the distance. He's probably going to be a 7th-round pick because nobody values running backs. But Frank Gore Jr. is absolutely an NFL running back. Jerry's kid is not the most explosive receiver ever, but he's big and ran, I think, 4.51 or 4.52. That's not disastrous. And if you watch him, he plays the position with the same seriousness that Jerry did. So like he's all in as a very serious route runner. He's very refined. He doesn't have big time wheels. But then there's McCaffrey, who does have pretty good wheels and might even be getting faster and better as time goes on. I think I'd like to have Luke out of that trio the most. But I don't know. I mean, I really believe all 3 are going to be NFL players. What do you think? If it comes down to a McCaffrey, a Rice, or a Gore, it's day 3, let's say. Let's say you're in the early 4th round. McCaffrey's going to go probably any minute.
Yeah.
Would you pick that high on him? Rice is probably going to be in the same neighborhood. Frank's kid's probably going to be there more in the end of the draft.
I mean, I think that Kyle would take a McCaffrey, right? Like a wide receiver named McCaffrey. That's Kyle's favorite player of all time. Like Ed McCaffrey was his dude. So if he sees any Ed McCaffrey in Luke McCaffrey, then I mean, they might overdraft. I don't know if Kyle still gets the 3rd round, but that would be a real danger zone because in past years he gets the 3rd round, and he's made some worse picks than that.
I think that's just so early. Like I liked what I saw from Luke McCaffrey, but at the same time, I'm like, competition's not great. It's not like he's an elite separator. Like he's kind of making great catches, but I'm like, is that really going to be a practical way, to catch the ball in the NFL? Is if he's not able to separate? I think if he's there in like round 6, I'm all for it. But round 4, I don't see the value. I think value-wise, Frank Gore Jr. makes the most sense, taking a running back late rounds. I think that is probably the best value.
I mean, with McCaffrey, he is somebody who you'll probably know within the first week of camp, maybe even rookie camp, where it's like he either got it or he doesn't. And I don't want to. He's a total flyer. I think all 3 of these guys are real flyers, and I don't actually want to use my day 3 picks on flyers. I want those to be my undrafted free agents. Bring them in. Maybe they got a shot. On day 3, guys, I want combine studs, guys who are just off the charts, crazy athletic testing numbers, who never put it together on the field. Or I want dudes like Juwan Jennings who just put it together on the field and the athletic numbers make no sense when you watch the game film because it looks like he shouldn't be able to run, and yet here he is continuing to run. And by the way, if we're just going to take failed Nebraska quarterbacks like Luke McCaffrey, wait a year and take Chubba Purdy.
Chubba, baby.
There you go.
Thanks for Chubba.
I can see Chubba being the backup, especially if he can run the way he looks like he can run.
An all Purdy quarterback room might be the way to go.
And an all McCaffrey offensive weapon group.
Couple last ones.
Kyle's white dream.
Which player's going to be a 49er for the least amount of time? Ayuk, Juwan, or Debo?
Debo.
Ooh.
Rationally, it's Debo. I'm now realizing it will not be Debo.
Are you expecting it's a Debo offseason trade?
I think that it's going to be after next year, there's going to have to be a reckoning on Debo. And I think that Jennings, it's just no reason. I don't think Jennings is ever going to go to a different team. And I don't think there's any reason to think that Jennings is ever going to get any better or worse. So he's just here and present. And Ayuk is going to get a big deal. And he's Brock Purdy's number 1 receiver. And they have a great chemistry. And by the way, Kyle Shanahan, ex-receivers, that's a thing. Andre Johnson and I mean, even Andrew Hawkins, like you go down the list. I mean, Julio Jones is the most obvious one. Like ex-receivers in Kyle Shanahan's system are the guy. And Debo was unquestionably the guy when Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback and the ball never went outside the hash marks, much less the numbers. But now that Brock Purdy's willing to sling that thing all over the field, you have to go back to a more conventional Shanahan offense, which we saw this past year. And that means that Brandon Ayuk is the first option on most plays. And with Debo's diminishing ability to separate, not that he ever had great ability, and the way that the offense is being expanded out horizontally as well as vertically, it's not to say that he's not a player of immense value and that he's not one of the best in the NFL, but he's also a guy who's here for a good time and not for a long time. And I think that the bill might be coming due here when it comes to health in the coming year or two. And with Ayuk, I expect to be really, really good for the next 5 years. I think Juwan Jennings is just going to be what he is for another couple of years. I think that the Debo fall off could be imminent and precipitous. So that's a real concern, but it's a great question.
I think when we talked about restructuring, and Dieter and I have talked about this a bit, there's plenty of money you can restructure. Two guys I wouldn't want to touch are Debo and Armstead.
Right.
I think you take the hit on those guys this year, and then you evaluate, are they worth keeping around next year at the same price, depending on how they play? Maybe, maybe not. But then you can get out from under their deals for a number that doesn't kill you. And if the 49ers wanted to trade Debo, I think they'd save something like $7-8 million on the cap. So that's it's not a non-option, but
it's not worth it.
Be really brutal. It's not worth it. Given what Debo does to their offense, he provided a ton in the regular season. It was just like when you watch the Super Bowl, he doesn't provide enough separation. If they're going to see McDuffie again, and if a team like the Chiefs is able to just play man press corner and lock him down, you got to get something else.
It should be noted that one team can do what the Chiefs did.
Right.
And it's the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not as if every
and
other
the
team's
49ers
out here.
Still should have won.
Agreed. But 3 of 11, 3 catches, 11 targets. And there's bad body language throughout that game. I don't know if he was nursing injuries and stuff. I mean, this is the big thing. They rode him so hard during the Garoppolo years that I can't imagine that there's not going to be repercussions on that. And we talked 2 years ago, we talked all the time about, Debo came into camp overweight. Dude, of course he came into camp overweight. That was the main concern Will Muschamp had on him coming into the NFL. The reason he was a second-round pick is that they were concerned that he, not the hardest offseason worker, that he's a guy who can put on weight easily. Of course he had massive weight issues going into that year. He had to physically recover for 6 months after that season that he had. There's no time to just get back on the field and grind it out. His body needed to heal because he was being used as a battering ram. And the way that we talk about running backs, to pull it back to Jake's comment earlier, the way we talk about running backs, apparently not McCaffrey, but everybody else in sort of they're a ticking time bomb and you don't want to pay them. I mean, Debo Samuel is used like a running back. Even if he's catching a pass, he's used as a running back because when was the last time you saw Debo Samuel run a play where he didn't have a dude bounce off him? Every single play ends with Debo Samuel being tackled. And with X wide receiver, a true outside guy like an Ayuk, there's a lot of plays where no one touches him the entire time. Catches it, goes out of bounds, on to the next play.
Or at least he doesn't take the same contact Debo does. There's a lot of stuff where it's closer to the sidelines. A guy tackles them out of bounds. Debo's getting hit over the middle on almost every ball he catches.
Tight ends, Debo Samuel, running backs. I mean, this guy, if he can carve out another 4 years, that's such an extreme number, but 4 years of elite play, it's a modern miracle. Frankly, if he gives you 2, you are operating with house money. This might be the swan song for Debo Samuel as we know him coming into this season, and I don't think it's guaranteed.
I think we're looking at things too deep. Kyle loves Debo. He cheered wildly for Ayuk. I think JJ is going to get the offer, the restricted offer. I think that's the reason they're looking at all these receivers because I think JJ is going to get a restricted offer. They're going to let him go. They're going to work out a deal. I mean, they gave him a second-round tender, but somebody's going to come calling for him. They're going to wind up trading him for a third. That would be my guess. I think JJ is the guy that's the guy who's not going to be in the room, though, he could have been the Super Bowl MVP. A couple quick thoughts, and then we'll jet. Daniel Popper was from The Athletic, who's a good writer who covers the Chargers for The Athletic, was on Dieter. You can quiet your ears, 95.7 The Game.
Oh, no, I'm aware.
And he discussed
the Chargers beat writer, by the way.
He discussed Joey Bosa and said, he thinks he wouldn't rule it out. He said at the end of the day, Joey Bosa has been public about the fact that he wants to play with Nick. His base salary is 15 this year. It's 17 next year. Just a quick thumbs up or thumbs down on Bosa, Joey Bosa.
If the Chargers were to eat $10 million, all of it, yeah, great. Throw him a third or a fourth. But that probably won't get it done, and I bet they don't end up trading him because it's basically like, do you want him on his current salary and you're willing to pay less in a trade, or do you pay more in draft compensation? But he hasn't been able to stay healthy the last 2 years. I don't know. It's just hard for me to see that coming together.
It's a $14 million cap hit for next year if you trade for him, on top of the capital that you would have to be trading to the Chargers, which I'm sure the Chargers would love it. And then
what if he's cut? What if they cut him loose? As Joey Nichols says, many analysts believe they're going to cut him.
I don't know why. I mean, they could. It's $22 million in dead money for this year to cut him. If you wait until next year, it's $7 million. Like I would run it back for one more year if I'm them, but teams do stupid stuff all the time, or aggressive stuff.
It's year one of the regime. I mean, they may,
But you don't think Jim Harbaugh is going to enjoy the concept of Joey Bosa? I mean, think about the defensive lines he's had with the 49ers. I mean, he values big, versatile guys who can, stop the run. And listen, Jake is spot on. Like Joey Bosa is not worth the current contract he's on. I think OTC has him as like a $3 million player. Now you can get into if that's valid or not, but like if he hits the open market, sure, absolutely. Why not? If you're going to spend on Chase Young, or you're certainly not going to spend on Randy Gregory, but like if you're looking for a mid-tier, middle market defensive end, make Nick a happy guy. I will say that I'm not sure that I'm too terribly keen on the 49ers turning to nepotism only hires, like that, whether it be through the draft or like these guys are paid very handsome amounts of money. Like I don't think they need this on top of anything else. So listen, could you do a lot worse than Joey Bosa? Hell yeah. But he's not a top of the market player anymore by the fact that he might get cut, or that people are even suggesting that he can get cut. And if he wants to come and give the 49ers a hometown discount, hell yeah. But unless that's the case, I don't see the 49ers making any moves other than willingly accepting a guy who shows up and says, I'll work for the minimum.
A thumbs up or thumbs down on DJ Jones's return. There was some talk of that this week. I don't know how legitimate the report was online, but I will say this. That is the guy they need in the middle of their run defense. I mean, they've missed him ever since he walked out the door. If they could get this guy back for a day 3 pick, I mean, you've got to do it. I think this is the solution to their run defense issues, at least inside.
He's probably going to get cut first and foremost, because the Broncos can save $9 million on his contract. So he'd be paying, I think he'll get cut. I mean, I guess the same with the trade. If they want to
do the same thing they did with Gregory, where they just eat the money, great. But yeah, I think him getting cut makes way more sense.
If you trade for him, he costs $9 million. Like, and DJ Jones, when he left, was worth that. He was an exceptional player. DJ Jones, we got to be real blunt about this here, sucked last year, because there is some validity to the DJ Jones conversation. I texted somebody I know who's attached to this in a way. They have a connection and they go, oh, absolutely. Like that's a real thing. And the Niners have looked into it and all this. But then I'm like, okay, well, I guess I need to watch a little DJ Jones tape from last year, because I wasn't up on the Broncos, and he's just not the same player. He doesn't have the legs. He doesn't have the legs anymore. So if he wants to come in at a very, very bargain basement rate, that's great. And just toss him in and, another spin at the roulette wheel, another log on the fire. But at the price that he's currently at, I don't think you can bring him in unless he's cut and you're signing him for the minimum, because he's not that guy anymore. And maybe he comes back and he is. Maybe he gets that rehabilitation year with the 49ers, getting back into a system that he was great in, all that. But I think it's got to be the price has to be right, and that price has to be like 1.5% of the salary, like less than $3 million.
He did have 30 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. He's averaged 16 games played over the last 3 seasons. I won't pretend that I've done a deep dive on his talent. The one thing I liked about him as a Niner is he played the game on his feet. He didn't go to the ground a lot, and that's high-level defensive tackle play. Where are you on DJ, Jake? You want him? You don't want him?
Yeah, I'd say he's like a peak leverage guy. Just the way he played the run game was phenomenal to watch. I haven't watched a ton of Broncos either, but some of the games I did watch, he didn't have the same burst. Like his first step was really impressive when he was with the Niners, and I'm not sure he's had that. But again, if it's $2 million, he comes free. Like, take a swing at it. Like, there aren't a ton of great interior. They tried with Sebastian Joseph Day. I don't think that was a great. I mean, maybe he would have worked out if he had a full offseason to ramp up. I just don't think it worked. But $2 million for DJ Jones, if he's out there, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world.
All right, we got 2. Oh, go ahead.
Well,
we have 2 last questions. We're going to go favorite draft crush, and then we've literally have buried the lead because I called this stream Colton McKivitz, extending him right move for the Niners. We haven't talked Colton. We'll hit that last. But favorite draft crush here on March the 8th.
I'll go with Troy Fautanu, offensive tackle / guard from Washington. Some people have him as a guard, and I can see that just from his size. But that guy can move, and he has the same sort of – he's got the trap snatch technique that Trent Williams has. Like, he is polished. He moves. Like, when I think about what the 49ers want in an ideal offensive lineman, it's Troy Fautanu, hands down. Like, he gets out in the run game in a way that I haven't seen a ton of other offensive linemen, especially offensive tackles, do. I don't think he's going to be there at all when the Niners draft. He's going to be a top 20 guy, I think. The combine made sure of that. But you want to talk about draft crush, it's Fautanu. I think he can play tackle. You can put him at guard too, but I think he's more than good enough to play tackle.
And because also nobody should confuse the trap snatch technique from the snatch trap technique.
That's a whole different thing. Technique. It's going to get you in trouble.
These are 2 dramatically different techniques. Dieter, go ahead.
I'm going to give you 2 because they're both day 3 guys, so you can afford to do it. Tyrone Tracy, and Hutch and I talked about these guys on the 49ers Game Day podcast.
You're talking about the Purdue running back, Tyrone Tracy Jr.
He is everything the 49ers need. Kick returner, punt returner. He was a wide receiver at Iowa who was pretty good. I liked him as a wide receiver at Iowa. I've gone in and watched a little more of that tape. Like, nothing special, not a game changer, but like shifty, had something to go. And then he goes to Purdue and is a running back. And this dude's ability to cut is next level. The jump cuts are awesome. And he's doing it against Big Ten defenses. We can get into if the Big Ten's overrated or not defensively, but like Michigan wasn't. And he was doing it against them.
He looked great in the Shrine game. I saw him in the Shrine game. He looked great in the Shrine
Tyrone Tracy Jr., this is a guy who I think if Debo does go out for an extended period of time, in the past, they'd go to Ray Ray. Well, Ray Ray can't do anything that Debo can do. But he was on the team, and that was his role. Like, I think Tyrone Tracy Jr., he's not Debo, but he has some Debo-like qualities in the versatility, in the ability to make guys miss for sort of inexplicable reasons, and he has the kick and punt return ability. Like, I think Tyrone Tracy Jr.
never goes down when he's on the first tackle. Always bounces off.
And he's got crazy testing scores. Like, if he's a day 3 pick, it's absolute money. I see an immediate role for him on this team. And then the Niners are going to need to bring in a tight end of some quality. I'm looking at 6'7" or 6'4", 271-pound Tip Riemann out of Illinois. I've been watching some Big Ten football, Larry. Tip Riemann.
Look at this. This is Tip Riemann, ladies and gentlemen.
Tip Riemann looks like a day 3 pick to me. He's a guy who, again, tested off the charts. At 271, he's running like a 4.5 40. That's baffling. Absolutely baffling. But he's in a Burt Bielema offense at Illinois, so he never ran more than like 5 yards down the field. But he was smooth as butter. He ran those 7 to 8 yard out routes as well as anybody. And the Illinois quarterback made it his mission to figure out all the places that he could throw the ball that wasn't Tip Rieman's chest or face mask, and Tip Riemann caught them all. I think that he's a guy who does have, because of the athletic ability, maybe that kind of Kittle upside, right? Where he wasn't in the right offense. You put him in the right offense, and now it just flourishes. He has that upside, but at the very worst case, he's a viable number 2 tight end for a team that hasn't had a viable number 2 tight end for several years. And that means that you can just put him in there to block somebody because he's in a Burt Bielema offense. They run first, second, and third offense. You saw that at Wisconsin with him, Arkansas, now at Illinois. They want to control the ball. They want to play a pro-style game or whatever the hell that means anymore. Tip Riemann was at the point of attack on damn near every play. I love Tip Riemann, tight end out of Illinois on day 3.
These are all good ones. I'm going to go with a guy who I don't even know if it's a sleeper. He's not really a sleeper because he's listed as the 3rd best inside backer, but they have him at 96. So he's late 3rd round. So that's pretty good. That's late day 2. I like Cedric Gray, the linebacker from North Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I watched Carolina a bunch this year, every time I turned on the film, this guy's just making plays. Then I turned on the film of the Senior Bowl. It was like a minute to play in the 4th quarter. Everybody's kind of just moving 3/4 speed. This guy's still playing a million miles an hour. He's just a tackling machine. I think that's one of the safest players in the draft. And I'll give you one that is not on anybody's board, but Elijah Chapman, who's a defensive tackle who's like 5'11", 285.
Some DJ Jones.
He plays for SMU. I don't know what he is.
Well,
I don't know. He could be a fullback. He could be a D tackle. He could be an inside backer. He could be a
this guy played
end.
in the Shrine Bowl, right?
Yeah, Elijah Chapman.
I'm going to give you a name on top of that because I saw Mason McCormick, a guard out of South Dakota State, absolutely own that kid rep after rep at the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, I do love Mason McCormick, Aaron Garrett Greenfield, from the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State, which is kind of an underrated program. And I kind of like that South Dakota State running back, Isaiah Davis.
Yeah.
You know, Isaiah Davis at the combine looked ridiculous, and he had a productive year. And the right side of their O-line was McCormick and Greenfield. Sounds like a really good law firm. If I'm the Niners, I would be investing back-to-back picks in the draft in Mason McCormick and Garrett Greenfield. But yeah, Elijah Chapman, he's probably an undrafted guy. But he's 285 and he's just plays with leverage. He's short, but the guy's super athletic.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Colton McKivitz. They signed him today. It's a 1-year deal for $7 million. Lots of people on the YouTube front and in the chats were losing their ass over this. They gave him $7 million, which is not nothing, but it's also not, like, oh, you're going to be for sure our starting tackle. I love Colton McKivitz, not just because I like talking to him. I think Colton McKivitz is a really good football player. I think he can play tackle in a pinch, but I think his best spot is center. And if I were the Niners, I think I would cut Brendel and I would go with McKivitz as my center, or I'm cool with going with McKivitz as my kind of 6th offensive lineman, kind of jack of all trades, first guy off the bench.
Right.
If I can find a right tackle in the draft, which I think I can. So I like McKivitz. He's smart. He's tough. Trent Williams told us, Jake, you remember that day when he's like, Colton McKivitz is afraid of no man. It's like he doesn't sit there and go, oh my God, we got Chris Jones, or oh my God, we got Aaron Donald. He just goes out there and does his job. He's thinking
about fishing. He's thinking about being out in the countryside.
Yeah, he's just like a good old boy from West Virginia. He's just not afraid. He's not afraid. He's not worried. I really like him. I think he actually elevated in the playoffs. I know his numbers look bad, but a lot of that was week 1 against TJ Watt, who kind of lit him up. Mm-hmm. I'm happy with the 1 year, $7 million. And I think it's smart going into free agency in the draft. Now you don't have to go round 1 tackle. Now you don't have to try to find some offensive linemen in the draft or in the free agency because they really don't exist at tackle. So I like the signing of McKivitz, but where are you two guys on it? Because there's a lot of smart people out there who watch a lot of Niner football. I'm not the be-all, end-all. I don't know everything. I'm just giving you my opinion. There's a lot of people who I respect who are like, man, this was a terrible signing. Give me your guys' perspective before we jump.
I would say it's a little much. $7 million guaranteeing 65% for next year. Just the guarantees, I think, are a little high. I don't think the number itself is that bad. I also don't think it's like a damning figure either way.
No.
I think it's fine because Colton McKivitz is fine. You can kind of put him anywhere. If you end up finding another tackle, if you want to try him at guard, that's probably going to be fine too. I think $7 million committing to that the following year. Again, it's not a damning figure, but that's you're sort of committing to him for at least beyond this year. I think, what is that, $2 million or $3 million if you cut him? And again, his agent might be playing it up a little bit. I think extending him is a good idea though. Like, I would have liked to see it at like $5 million. But again, we're splitting hairs a little bit. So at that point, you might as well extend him. That way, if you don't find a tackle in this draft or the guy doesn't come along as quick as you want him to, you've got a safety net for the next season. So it's a valuable position, especially, I don't know, say Trent Williams retires the following year and I think there. So I think it's fine. I think it's a little, I mean, $7 million is not much, but I think it's a tiny bit pricey, but whatever. It's fine.
I think it's right on the number, if we're being honest. I mean, and it has very little to do with Colton McKivitz. It has everything to do with his predecessor. I mean, Mike McGlinchey was not better than Colton McKivitz last year. And Mike McGlinchey's getting paid $20 million a year, close to. This is a premium position. This is a position that has been, you want to talk about inflation in the modern era, right tackle. I mean, second defensive end. I mean, these are positions that you're going to have to pony up for in all likelihood if you're not consistently developing guys. And the 49ers have shown that they're not developing top end players on the offensive line. They got Trent Williams. They didn't develop him. They got him for a song. And then, Brendel's fine and your guards are fine. And of course you're mixing and matching at one position with Burford and Feliciano, who was, cheap off the streets. Like, McKivitz was your second best offensive lineman, arguably, last year. And he plays a premium position. And the fact that you can get a guy to play fine, maybe even below average at a premium position for a fair contract value, I think is something that a team like the 49ers, who does have financial flexibility, has to do. Because you don't want to find out what happens on the other side if, as Jake noted, you do draft or you do sign somebody. Like, you're not signing anyone better than him for $7 million. Not on the open market. You can maybe go get someone cheaper who you think is as good, but now you're making that bet. And then you go into the draft, and again, much like with quarterback, if anyone says that they know what the hell they're doing when drafting offensive linemen, let them know, because you'll be making $20 million a year as a head coach in this league if you can identify with certainty offensive line talent in a modern era of college football where offensive line play has never been worse because of the spread offenses and the RPOs. Like, it doesn't translate to the NFL level like at all. And so you get these extreme premiums where the guys who are clearly pretty good, they're all now first round picks, much like a quarterback. If you're pretty good, you're a first round pick. And everything beyond that is just a total crapshoot. I think the 49ers, with where they're at, obviously inside a Super Bowl window, $7 million, that's a good insurance policy. Worst case scenario, you're in the same spot. And worst case scenario, you have a guy who was fine for you this past season. He certainly wasn't the biggest problem on your offensive line. In best case scenario, okay, you're paying $7 million to replace him. You slide him over to guard. You slide him to center. You find a spot for him. $7 million for a swing tackle is a bit much, but, you got to pay to win. And you're paying your quarterback $1 million. So if you threw a little extra Colton McKivitz's way, like, it doesn't hurt you.
Great stuff. Great stuff, guys. I'll just read the last supers here. And Star chats. T-Dub says, I've been saying for weeks, the same 5 O-linemen will be starting next year. Pretty clear. Kyle hates first-year O-linemen, learning his system. The guys who have been in it for years, Burford, still struggle. Okay, we'll see. We'll see where it goes, T-Dub. Appreciate that. Sean Hensley says that they don't fix that O-line, they'll never win it all. That really resonated with me because I really believe Sean's right on that. They're never going to get it.
I'm with him from the perspective of, you finally found your quarterback, like, now the nexus changes, like, invest in your O-line.
But when you're paying when you're paying your tight end and your wide receivers and your running back as much as you can, like and you want to make, and you put your money on defense, like, the cost is going to have to be cut somewhere. So, I mean, Listen, I'm not saying that you guys are wrong. I would want to invest. I would love to get a premier right tackle and then somebody who could slide over when Trent Williams does retire, whenever the hell that would be. That would be great. But at a certain point, there is a cost limitation here, and you got to ride with what you got. Guards are a lot cheaper than right tackles. Lock in. If you have somebody who you feel even slightly comfortable with rolling out there at right tackle, pay them. And if that guy only costs $7 million, you came out easy, because there's a lot of really crappy right. Look at the Chiefs, man. They have the greatest quarterback of all time. Their tackles sucked, and it almost burned them. Almost. Yeah. They still had the greatest quarterback of all time. Interesting
too. The Niners did meet with J.C. Latham and Fugaisi, or whatever his name is, Talieisi Fuaga, I should say. Mm-hmm. Both those guys are supposed to go in the top 15 picks. So that's interesting. Why do they meet with those guys? Do they plan to trade up? At least I think they wanted to cover their bases. Daza says, rather than bringing Aziz back, can we see what we have in the linebackers we drafted last year? If not, then why did we draft them? That's a good point. I think Jalen Graham, middle of next year, people are going to be like, dude, why did Steve Wilkes not play Jalen Graham? And I kept asking Wilkes late in the year, are you going to play Jalen Graham? He's like, well, he was a safety. He was this, he was that. Dude, Steve, that's fine. But, I mean, this guy, I guarantee you, if Jalen Graham gets on the field next year for the Niners, there's going to be a game where he makes 12, 13, 14, or 15 tackles, and people are talking to guys like us the next week about where was this guy last year? Yeah. And I don't know that I have a good answer to cover that. I think he's really, really special player. And I've talked to the kid too. He's solid as it gets. Mm-hmm. Jalen Graham is a very good player. And I think he's going to be terrific next year. MGM Productions says, Krug, are they really changing the kickoff rules? If so, can you explain in layman's terms for us laymen? LOL. I try not to ever try to know all the rules. It's not a good thing for me. But I do have guys like I got guys like Jake and Dieter here, and these guys do know all the rules. I will. That's why they're so good.
They tried this one out where basically, instead of kicking off and you're all the way out here, you move it here, and until the guy actually catches the ball, neither side can move. Yeah. And so what it means is there's less injuries and there's a way higher rate of return. Less injuries. I'm not saying there's guaranteed less injuries. That's what they're.
It's less speed. It's less contact. Right. There's less run up.
Right. They're trying to eliminate the big collision.
The issue.
So say that again.
Easier chance for return.
This is the XFL
easier chance
rule.
for a return.
Yeah, I mean, because you can't move.
We need to either eliminate the play or design something to make it useful. Right now, this kicking through the back of the end zone just feels like, what? Why? What are we doing? And like anybody sitting there who's like a foreign person watching our game going, what's the purpose of this? Like you would never know. It's like it would have to be explained.
Well, the purpose is that we get to go to the bathroom. And by the way, there's also something that's attached to this rule with touchbacks, where if you if you kick a ball into the end zone, it's like at the 35-yard line, and then they have this like weird target zone. And when you change a rule like this, it's 3/4 of the league owners have to approve it. And I think that some of the pork on this bill, to steal another political term beyond filibuster, might ruin it, because I think the XFL rule where you can't run, it's at the 35 and the 40, and you can't run until the guy catches the ball. Like that makes a lot of sense. And we saw it in the XFL or whatever the hell they're calling that now, the USL or UFL, whatever. I think that rule makes a lot of sense, but like onside kicks only being allowed in the fourth quarter, probably not a real issue, but it's something to think about. And then this weird touchback attachment, I think it's overdoing it. And I think it might prevent, the ratification of 3/4 of the league making this thing happen. So I don't think
too much pork on the bill.
Too much pork on the bill.
All right. We've had the snatch and grab, the grab and snatch, and too much pork on the bill. Daza says, do we really want Mac or Zach in the locker room? How about Minshew or Tyrod Taylor, or elevate Brandon and draft a quarterback? I think we covered that issue pretty
Tyrod
thoroughly.
Taylor and Minshew are going to cost you too much. Full stop.
Yeah.
You're not going to get
Minshew
those
would be a dream. Minshew would be a dream based on the way he played last year. I thought he was fantastic coming off the bench. And Bucket of Chicken says, when is Larry doing another show with Grant? All right, here's the deal. I insulted Grant, and
no.
he's not happy about it. But we talked it out, and we're going to stream again on Monday. And I'm going to apologize for me being a big mouth, talking shit guy.
What did you say, Larry?
Well, you guys know me. I find myself, I talk a lot of that. I talk a lot of S. I mean,
yeah, we love it.
When I was at 95.7, when I'm at 95.7, I talk S on KMBR. When I was at KMBR, I talked S on 95.7. When I'm on YouTube, I kind of talk both, talk S on both. When when I'm on with Grant, I talk S about you guys. When I'm on with you guys, I talk S about Grant.
As you should.
I'm a shit talking guy.
Heaven forbid in this realm of sports that we exist in that someone talks shit.
I mean, so no, but I
what do you think we're doing after this? We're gonna go talk some shit.
What happened? What happened was somebody came into one of my streams last week or a couple of weeks ago and said that I was a Shanahan fanboy.
Oh boy!
And I just lost my S. I lost my S. I was taking down all kinds of groups of people. I'm shooting at Grant. I'm shooting at Lombardi. I'm shooting at other people in the room. I'm just going off half cocked. And you know what? I shouldn't do that. And Grant called me on it. And anyway, so the answer, bucket of chicken. The answer is
thank you, Monday. Bucket of chicken.
Thank you, bucket of chicken, for your thoughtful.
Thank you. Bucket of chicken. You're half a freaking bucket. No, you're 2 wings and a thigh. No, bucket of chicken. Thank you for asking. Monday, we will do a show on both of our channels. In that Monday show, I will apologize for being the shit-talking, bad attitude kid that the grammar school told my parents I was. The nuns and the priests, they said, hey, we love your kid. He's great, but he talks a lot of shit. And, now
those exact words.
Home to roost. What's that?
Those exact words. The nuns used them.
We love your kid, but he talks a lot of mess.
Real shit talk.
But no, in all seriousness, I shouldn't have said some of those things. And I will apologize to Grant on our stream on Monday. But we will be streaming again as of Monday. So look forward to that. And I know all of you will be there.
YouTube drama.
All right. That's going to do it for us here. I just wanted to say that, follow these guys. Jake Hutchinson, Dieter Kurtenbach. They're not on this show. I saw a couple people going, who are these guys? These guys are on major radio stations and have major talent. And the reason that they're on this show is because they have major talent. I believe very strongly in both these guys' careers because they're really, really smart. They're really dedicated. They're really good at what they do. So, Jake, tell people where they can find your stuff and pimp yourself out to the audience a little bit here at the end.
I'm always happy to pimp myself out. You can follow me on Twitter at Hutch Diesel. And you can follow 49ers Game Day, our podcast on YouTube, all of your podcast sources. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you can find my writing also on my Twitter.
There you go. Dieter Kurtenbach, phenomenal as well. As good a radio guy as there is. Dieter, tell people when and where they can digest you in all your different forms. And that sounded really sick. That sounded
pretty hard to digest, Dieter.
It's pretty accurate, though. I mean, it's a chewy meat, you can find my stuff on Twitter at Dieter and San Jose Mercury News, Bay Area News Group. I'm writing columns all the time there. And if you're hanging out and you want to flip the station from these sons of bitches right here, you can head over to 104.5 and 680.
There you go. And go do that and support Dieter. Digital Drew, who's a made man on this show and a channel member, says, apologize for nothing, Larry. You is what you is. Finish him and carry on. I'm not. Should I go in there?
Tune in. Larry might kill Grant.
I'm going to sweep the leg. I'm going to sweep the leg just like my sensei told me. By the way, I really enjoy Cobra Kai. I got to be honest, on the Netflix.
Oh, yeah?
It's a weakness. I mean, seriously, it's a guilty pleasure. But when Elizabeth Shue just pops into an episode, I mean, is there a more
Big
beautiful
shoehead.
actress than Elizabeth Shue?
I mean, there's a lot, but like Elizabeth Shue still got it, baby. We can all agree on that. I'm watching Shogun, which is awesome.
Are you?
You guys should watch Shogun, Justin Marks' show. He made a great show called Counterpart that if you get the chance, watch Counterpart.
Digital Drew, who joins us from Chicago, and he is one of the creators, guys, of Mortal Kombat, the video game.
Okay, I was wondering.
Great guy, Digital Drew. Says, I like these guys. Have them back. I'll bring the beer.
Hell yeah. We'll take the beer.
Appreciate you.
These guys are absolutely fantastic.
49ers
Jake,
game
we'll give you the final. We'll give you the final word. Snatch and grab and snatch. Where are we going? What's the final word? Sweep the leg.
I'm going snatch and grab. Are we going with snatch and grab?
Pull,
is that the motto for today? Snatch and grab.
Snatch and grab.
Snatch and grab today.
It's one to live on, right? It's a good philosophy of life. Snatch and grab. Guys, have a great Friday. Seriously, love both you guys. It was great seeing you guys in Vegas. I was really very happy that we could hook up on for a stream there, but even more happy that we could hook up for a stream here. And let's do it again. I know Jake is all over the Niners for 95.7 The Game and does some great work for Odyssey. Dieter does phenomenal work for KMBR and is all over Giants baseball, Warrior basketball, Niner football. He's really, a jack of all trades and can talk about everything. So, guys, let's have you back. I'd love to have you back. I'm huge fans of both of your career. I wish you nothing but huge success and great health going forward. And thanks for stopping on the Krueger Show. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
Larry.
For everybody, brought to you once again by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California, Marin Auto Glass, Underdog Fantasy. And don't forget my good friends at Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. For Dieter, for Jake, for myself, I'm Krueger. We'll see you next time, maybe tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with the coach. Join us then.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful.